all aboard the hype train. If you are a seasoned web dev, you know what I'm talking about. If you are new in this space, welcome. You are in for a wild ride, and you should prepare yourself to be driven to an early grave. As a front-end dev, you will end up having only one constant, stable certainty in your career. There will always be a shiny new library reinventing the wheel. Everybody will be ecstatic about its potential and will act like any small change in the core architecture makes this library the second coming of Jesus Christ. I know, this sounds terrible, but in my experience, the best thing you can do is just embrace the pain. So let's talk React versus Solid. Let me start by saying that this comparison feels like a breath of fresh air, especially since I grew tired of the old habit of comparing React to Angular in any context. Also, this is not going to be a which is the better library video, because I believe those types of videos are dumb. As long as I didn't already post such a video in the past, in which case they aren't dumb. Finally, don't worry, the conclusion of this video will not be that you need to rewrite your pet project in a different framework. The conclusion of this video will be a much more depressing one, since you'll realize that you only have two options in the front-end space. So, you can either don't care about any of this stick with the old awful stuff you are already knowing, and act all superior because it's a waste of time to know everything, or care about all this stuff, always be learning and refactoring your code using the new awful stuff, and then act all superior because you know everything. These are your only two choices, so let's spend the next couple of minutes elaborating on this in the context of React versus Solid. I am seeing more and more opinions on Solid being a real alternative to React. I also posted a similar video on this exact subject on my channel, so it must be true, right?
Wrong.
Let me put this in context. Saying that Solid can replace React is just like saying that my 3-year-old son can replace me in my day-to-day work as a developer. Sure, it might happen at some point in the future. After all, he knows how to use a smartphone at the age of 3, while I got my first real smartphone in my early 20s. However, I still have 15 years of experience of copy-pasting code from Stack Overflow while wasting hours in Scrum meetings. This is real, valuable work experience you can't simply beat by being younger, smarter, and more efficient at what you're doing. This is exactly the same situation Solid.js is in. Sure, it learned from past mistakes React did. Of course, it uses all the stuff React is great at. Think here of function components, hooks, or JSX. Obviously, it also fixes some of the pain points of React development. No more virtual DOM, rendering, or reconciliation processes. And, as you would expect, excels when it comes to speed and performance metrics. It all sounds good on paper, but I'm going to guess that if you were to start a new real-world, I have deadlines, pressure is on project, you will go with the React stack, no questions asked. Why is that? Well, on one hand, React, despite all its faults, is a mature, battle-tested, still heavily maintained library. Believe me, I'm the first to point out all the stuff React is doing wrong. First of all, Create React App is a mess which was aimed to solve the even bigger mess of scaffolding React projects with tens of dependencies. Does the saying JavaScript fatigue ring any bells? Well, we have React to thank for that. We needed a completely separate team of developers to come up with Next.js to finally put an end to this madness. Okay, I might be too harsh. After all, you only need to set up a new project once in a blue moon. I accept that. Let's look at reactivity then. React, despite its name, is not really reactive. This is especially clear when you look into the process it calls rendering and compare it to the signals-based model Solid is using. React's reactivity, while disruptive when it first got out, feels fairly obsolete now. Because of it, React's code is at times messy, relying on huge dependency arrays. Also, some of its implementation details get rather complex because of the need to use callback hooks to optimize code, and, last but not least, React's reactivity relies heavily on the virtual DOM, which, these days, is considered an expensive abstraction in more modern frameworks. So yes, on paper, React is, at times, terrible. But for some reason, it still grows in popularity and usage. Why? Well, I think it all boils down to its ecosystem. Being the most popular UI library for almost 10 years comes with some perks. Sure, you'll have your fair share of haters, and your architecture and approaches might be more scrutinized than others, but at the end of the day, real, talented people are using React in real projects. And when this happens, some of those talented people will create third-party libraries, frameworks, and tools for React, which in turn will attract more talented people in the ecosystem. Just like that, the snowball is rolling, and in a few years you end up with a framework so big and so immersed in a huge number of projects that it's hard to believe it will ever be replaced by anything else. I'm not saying it's not possible, but we are 15 years away from the times jQuery really peaked in popularity, and despite fierce competition and various other alternatives that came along, jQuery is still used in more than 75% of current websites. So here is the gist of it. Like it or not, React is here to stay for a very, very long time. We can all act like frameworks such as Solid, Svelte, or Quick have a fighting chance, but when push comes to shove, we all run back to good old React. Solid, on the other hand, is amazing and deserves a lot of credit. However, it needs to go through all the necessary maturity steps and build a powerful ecosystem around it before being ready to take on the harsh reality of production software. If you found this video useful, please consider liking it and subscribing to the channel. Until next time, thank you for watching.